outsourcing around family. Breaking news, Shane Steichen, the next head coach of the Indianapolis Colts, as has been reported in the last couple days previous. A little bit of smoke got going, Stephen, on this, and then things obviously Super Bowl morning, things started trending that way. But looks like fresh off this masterclass game that he called in the Super Bowl, Eagles did fall short, but I mean, a lot of teams fall short to Patrick Mahomes when it comes right down to it. But I'm kind of excited to just talk about this one. I'm sure there's more to come. We'll do live streams. We'll have all of that stuff as we go down the road. But just an initial reaction, just your thoughts to Shane Steichen, ink to paper, now the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts.
So I like it. I'm excited, and as a Colts fan, I think we tweeted out during the Super Bowl too. I know it was unofficial. It's officially, what is it? What's the word? Officially official at this point, right? But I know at the time we were saying, hey, me and you talked to her, like, it's kind of fun. You got the guy calling the plays of the Super Bowl. Sit back, look at it, and see what he can do. And I mean, me and you talked afterwards. It wasn't lack of his offense. Like, he put on almost like this master class of play calling. And I know coming out of it, I'm looking at it going, okay, like I love what he drew up. I love how he game planned. And then kind of a side note, like I told you, they cut over a couple of times to the sideline, and I liked his fire. That was a question me and you had.
Yeah,
Is that Sirianni who is the one who shoots that fire off in Philly, or are we getting kind of a Frank Reich calm demeanor? And I mean, I think he's calm, but at the same token, like there were times you could see him like where he was getting fiery on the sideline. I mean, he's not Jonathan Gannon fiery when you would look over there.
yeah.
But I mean, I came away impressed. I'm excited. I think we joked on the unofficial one that we did was in the beginning of this, and I know we'll talk about this more too. He was really a name that was high on everybody's list. We just assumed they wouldn't want anything to do with the Colts, or Sirianni wouldn't like advise him to go to the Colts, or he was going to have a lot of options. And I mean, I think we come out of this cycle. I mean, you're not big game hunting, Harbaugh or Peyton, but man, you come out with, I would dare say, probably the best offensive coach you could hire. Young offensive. I mean, what is he, 39? I think they said 38.
37 years old, it looks like. At least that's what it says. We'll get all of that information, as things go down. But I think just looking over some of his details, you made some great points. I mean, the question mark I had was, you just fired Frank Reich. Are you getting more of the same? Right? Like that. And that's an obvious question. That wasn't a knock on him. That was just a question. I think it's something that we need to look a little more into. Maybe he has a little bit of both. Maybe he has a little bit of fire, but a little bit of calmness in those moments as well. But I'll just tell you, I've been super impressed with what he's done with Jalen Hurts this year and last year for that matter. He took over for Nick Sirianni. So Nick Sirianni trusted this man to run this offense, and they look great. I mean, they just did. And this is the trend of the NFL, Stephen. Young offensive minds have been very, very, very successful. You think about the Zach Taylors, the Sean McVays, Mike McDaniels. I mean, all of these guys. The list goes on and on and on. But these young offensive minds, especially if you can couple that with bringing in a young quarterback, like it's almost a dynamic. It's almost a match made in heaven if you can go there. That's probably why I've said from the beginning. Anybody who listens to this show knows all full well, if it's a coin flip, I've said from the beginning, you take an offensive guy because it just gives you such an edge year in and year out. A perfect example, Philadelphia is getting ready to – not getting ready to. They have lost their offensive coordinator, but guess what? They still have their offensive structure in place. Nothing changes when it comes from that. Now, I'm sure there'll be some new wrinkles with whoever they bring in, but still – there's stability on the offensive side at the most important position in football, which is the quarterback position. Can't say enough about that. Guys, this has been an exhausting and extensive search, and I've not loved the process. I've been impatient. I've been patiently waiting, I guess I should say. But that being said, you're not going to be able to accuse Chris Ballard and Jim Irsay in that front office of not, turning over every single possible stone that can be turned over. They went through this process. They were diligent. And at times Colts fans probably thought, well, damn, man, you're being a little bit too diligent, when it comes down to it. But ultimately, they had to do that. They had to have the peace of mind. And I think, Super Bowl Sunday was the vindication of what is this guy capable of on the biggest stage. That was a great Super Bowl, Steven. Two great teams. Somebody had to lose that football game. Like, I don't think anybody listening to this podcast walks away from that Super Bowl thinking, man, Steichen really should have just done this, or Steichen really should have just done that. No, I mean, he called up a great game. And had it not been for Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy on the other side, he's probably walking away with a Super Bowl ring. Let's be honest. I mean, Jalen Hurts had an unbelievable game on the ground, and there ain't a damn team in the NFL can figure out how to stop that fourth and short or that third and short when they go into that rugby style of rush or whatever they do. But who's teaching them to do that? That's our head coach. He's involved in that. Who's teaching those guys how to get low and get that leverage? Now, you have to have the players to be able to produce that. You have to have all of that. But when it comes down to it, you got a guy coming to this team that fits a lot of things that I like. I love aggressive style on offense, Steven. I love a guy who has a specific game script. I don't like a guy, I think Frank had a little bit of trouble with this in the past. He just said, this is our offense and this is what we do. You got to be able to adjust on the fly. You got to be able to look at, okay, they're playing us this way. We got to make some in-game changes. Really, really excited about this new era. And if you get the quarterback right, you get your coach right, you've probably got a pretty good football team for the next 10 or 12 years if health is involved in all of that stuff. And pretty excited to hear the press conference and all of that good stuff, just to see his personality a little bit more. What do you got, Steven?
Yeah, I mean, I think me and you we talked briefly on the kind of the unofficial one too, is that I love the fact that, like, we all have our favorite quarterbacks in the draft, right? Like, we all, some people really like Anthony Richardson. Some people really like Will Levis or CJ Stroud or Bryce Young. I like the fact that with Steichen, I think the whole thing is open. I don't think who, because he's worked with a Phillip Rivers. He's worked with a Justin Herbert, and he's worked with a Jalen Hurts. Yeah. And, something I kept hearing, and, we love him here on this show, Kevin Bowen, and he talked about a lot, was the difference between one of the favorite candidates, which was Brian Callahan, right, was he had older, more established ones. Steichen has really, outside of Rivers, really developed some of these younger quarterbacks, which is what you're looking for. I mean, I'm excited for it. I'm excited to see. And you brought up too, and I want to point out, I told you this too. Now that it's all official, go back. Albert Breer wrote an article on SI.com that really delved in. He talked to the candidates that went through this interview process, and Zach Kiefer and Stephen Holder, and all of them said it to everybody, was that they were very conscious of people thought they looked like a fool over the last few months. Irsay realized that, Ballard realized that, the people in the building, and they took it kind of personal. And when you read this article and you really see the depth that they went into in these interviews, you understand what they were doing. I mean, I'm not going to give it away, but I mean, I told you they literally talk about how they brought situations up on the big screen with these candidates in the building and said, what are you going to do here? Like, when this is going on, what would you do in this exact situation? And I mean, odds are maybe it was a bad play that we had before. I'm excited. I mean, I'm even excited to see who does he bring with him. What are we looking at? I think it's been pretty well established at this point, and he has a pretty lengthy relationship and history with Gus Bradley. I think that's coming back. I'm interested to see if Bubba's coming back, but I'm really interested to see his offensive staff. Who does he bring in? Is he going to call plays? Because I think that at times was a detriment to Frank, right? Like, he couldn't get into the game flow because he was too busy kind of worrying about what was coming next. Now, also, you've got Gus Bradley, and I think there's a really strong possibility you're going to see something similar to that Sean McVay, Wade Phillips. Hey, you run the defense. I'll cover everything else. I'll manage the team. You go do your thing. And that's your unit. That's Buddy Ryan and the 85 Bears, right? You go do your thing, and I'll worry about what I'm going to worry about. I am really interested to see the press conference because, we did a lot of digging, especially once it started to come out more on he was going to be the guy. And you try to find like these mic'd up moments. Like I'm trying to find, and I found one, I tweeted it out that was kind of interesting where he was very adamant about the division. He seems to be, from what I can gather, he fiery but precise in what he does. He's not Nick Sirianni fiery. I mean, we know Nick here in Indy, but he seems to carry, when he says what he says, he means what he says. So I'm interested to see what happens.
I think accountability will be one thing that comes in that building. And I think anytime you walk into a building as a new head coach, those players are going to see where you're at with certain things. What can we do? How will he handle these situations? I think from the very beginning, just keeping those players accountable. But when you walk in there and you're the head coach and you can sit there and say, well, I have a Super Bowl on my resume. Might not have won that Super Bowl, but you've led a team to a Super Bowl. A lot of teams like that. A lot of players want to ride with a guy like that. And you made a great point. You call him precise. I think he's calm under the big moments, but he's also got this internal fire. You just need a little more friction. I know Chris Ballard's used that in the past. I think just a little more friction in that locker room, but definitely not afraid to stand even if it's star players and call them out and say, hey, this is exactly what we need. And this is the direction we need to go moving forward. A young guy who has about 10 years coaching experience. So that's kind of an exciting part for me too. You're getting best of both worlds. You're getting a guy who's got experience. He actually started off, Stephen, I did a little bit of research. He started off in college as an assistant, and he served 2 years there before he jumped to the NFL. Obviously, we know he's been there with the Chargers. He's got ties with Frank Reich, obviously Sirianni. All of that's going to be a part of it. But that being said, I'd be interested to see his twist and who he brings over as the coordinator. But more importantly, who's he bringing over as the quarterback's coach? Because you got to have somebody locked and loaded, ready to take over the moment. You know how it is. It's a copycat league. The moment you're successful in the NFL, they're going to swoop in and they're going to take your guys from you. We know full well. I mean, half of that staff that was on that Eagles football team used to be on the Colts team, and they took it all. They took all of the good stuff, and be very curious to see who he brings back with him as far as that goes. So, I mean, like I said, I'm pretty excited. It's an offensive guy. That's what I wanted from the beginning. Probably was a little more Callahan, at one point. But that being said, let's roll. I don't care. I want an offensive mind.
It's not Jeff Saturday.
And it's definitely not Jeff Saturday, which I promised the viewers if Jeff Saturday got hired, we'd never do a podcast on Saturday ever again. And we don't have to worry about that now. We can record any day that we want to when it comes down to it. So, definitely exciting times for the Indianapolis Colts. We want to get this out here to you guys. We just want to have a chance to just briefly talk about it. But more importantly, we just want to know what you guys think. What do you guys think? Hit us up in those comments for sure. You guys did such a great job on the reaction of, when they were thinking about doing this and news started breaking from Adam Schefter. You guys did such a fantastic job. We want to know more. We want to know specifics. We want to know what you want to know about them. We might even have a podcast topic for that. And while you're doing that, man, if you want to go on over there and you want to throw just sprinkle a little bit of money on WagerWire over there while you're at it. And hey, Indianapolis Colts to go to the Super Bowl next year, throw a little $20 down there and just see what could happen, with something like that.
Money right now.
Shop them. You can, if you're an NBA fan, I'm a sports fan all year round. NBA is going to be a great time to shop bets, trade bets. You can beat them at the buzzer. I'd go to www.wagerwire.com, sign up, see what they got going for them. It's pretty cool, man. It really is. They're even going to have that app next year, which I'm excited about the app because you can everywhere you go, man, you're mobile and you can get those late game, feeds in and have a chance to win a little bit of money as well. But that being said, Stephen, Shane Steichen, next head coach, Indianapolis Colts, should be time to maybe turn our eye after this press conference, turn our eye to the draft. So which everybody
is in 2 weeks.
And then we're going to debate it ad nauseum. And that's what I love, because I love this part of the process. We're going to talk about all the quarterbacks, which quarterbacks are going to match up best with Shane Steichen. More to come on that. But until next time, guys, I love you. Steven loves you. I think Shane Steichen has to love you because he's the next head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. And guys, we're out.